Welcome to New York's number two sports show. The New York Giants lose 30-7 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first game since the release of Daniel Jones. So Tommy DeVito being in there, unsurprisingly, doesn't really make much of a difference. If anything, they were worse. And just all the way around, offensively, the defense was terrible. And the Bucs just had their way with the Giants. So now 6 straight losses for the Giants. 2-9 record. They haven't even led a game at any point since their win against Seattle. And that was, so within this 6-game losing streak, not once they lead. And I had been talking about that in previous episodes, and now it's finally something that's actually being talked about. And I couldn't quite remember for sure if the Giants had a lead in the Eel game, and they did not. They were down 14-0 and made it 14-3. So, to not even have a single lead is pretty hard to do. In 6 straight games. So Giants are now 0-6 at home as well. It is, very much unraveling for the Giants. And I think one of the big things as well is some of the post-game pressers, you're really starting to see some frustration, especially with Malik Neighbors. And I think if there's one person that you really would be concerned about, it would be Neighbors, just the way that you see that he does handle himself. And he's kind of kept it in check to this point, but he basically called the team soft as fuck, said that, it didn't matter who the quarterback was. Malik Neighbors didn't see a single target until the second half. And to that, he said, ask Daves about it. So not the stuff you want to see. And I think that, unfortunately, 6 more games, it's not going to get any better. So the good news is, from a draft standpoint, Giants will leave this week 12, with the number 2 selection. And again, obviously a ways to go, but getting some pretty good results outside, around the league. And just with the way the Giants are looking, it is, relatively promising just within that, in a vacuum, that the Giants really should end up with one of the top picks in the draft. It doesn't really mean that you're going to get a amazing quarterback. Shador Sanders and Cam Ward seem to be the top ones, but they're also considered not as good as the top 3 from this previous draft. But that is the good news. And so for me, definitely pleased about that. But it is increasingly hard to imagine with performances like this. And we'll keep it in the Brian Dable sense, but Joe Shane, is in it as well. I guess we'll say both. Them surviving this season is very much in question. And I think everything being equal, I think John Mara would want to keep them intact. And it's hard for me to defend them, I guess, because I would not mind bringing them back in next season. But I also understand people saying, hey, fuck them. This is a joke. And it is, right? So for me, it's all about just getting, as good as draft capital as you possibly can get. And if the GM and coach survive, so be it either way. Again, my preference would be I want to see Dable with his own QB, even after a loss like this. Because, look, the fact of the matter is, in releasing Daniel Jones, that was a decision, and more so benching him, it was one that made sense financially and organizationally. It was not a move that really necessarily, it did not make the team better on the field. And so for the players, there could be a lot of resentment towards, Brian Dable, and more so Joe Shane even, because I think that came from up top as well. So that's a decision that is going to make your football team worse. Daniel Jones could get all the shit, from fans that he will. And Jones is not, a quarterback that was successful, and he deserved to be benched. But he is better than Tommy DeVito. He is better than Drew Lock. There's no doubt about that. Like to even question that, and I don't think many people are. I think people acknowledge that Jones is better than them, and that DeVito really, the reason why he's in there, I think, is honestly, I don't think they were lying when they said to provide a spark. Drew Lock is, I'd have to guess that Drew Lock is better than Tommy DeVito. I would have to, but clearly Drew Lock isn't very good. He actually came in this game briefly. DeVito got hurt late in the game, and DeVito was in there for a play. But um, yeah, just all around ugly for the New York Giants. And I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better coming up. And it's a quick turnaround with the Thanksgiving game Thursday at Dallas. So, again, obviously, Daniel Jones released. Tim Boyle was the emergency third quarterback with Drew Lock as the backup and Tommy DeVito as the starter. Giants came into this game relatively healthy. Kayvon Thibodeau back in there after missing, he must have missed about 4 or 5 games. I think he actually missed 5. I think he got hurt in that Seattle, 4 or 5. But yeah, so he returned, but the Giants did sustain a couple of injuries in this game, and most notably Jermaine Illuminor. I think that they termed it a quad injury, and it happened fairly early in the game. Tommy DeVito took 4 sacks, a lot of them early, and quite honestly, that was a problem for DeVito last season, and you could see it kind of being one again here. So what that meant with Illuminor out, Chris Hubbard back at left tackle. So Hubbard on the left, Evan Neal on the right. That is pretty bad. Even if you want to say that, and it is true, like last year compared to this year, like interior wise, the guards, Runyon and Van Roten, are very likely to upgrade from what you had last year, but the tackles are worse. Andrew Thomas was healthy when Tommy DeVito was in there, and Evan Neal is Evan Neal. So, yeah, that is definitely problematic, and I think it's going to be tough for this offense to operate with that Illuminor injury and with that quick turnaround. Even if it's kind of a good news situation on the injury front for him, you can't love his chances of playing on Thursday against a team that does feature Micah Parsons. So it is pretty scary. But another injury was Azeez Ojulari. And that kind of made it so that Kayvon Thibodeau played more because he did come in on a pitch count. But with the Ojulari toe injury, it kind of forced them into using Kayvon more than I think they would have wanted to. They only had one other edge rusher on the active roster, Patrick Johnson, who played just a little bit. So, yeah, Ojulari left the game with that toe injury. DJ Davidson left briefly but returned, the defensive tackle for the Giants. But yeah, it's just tough. Like Dexter Lawrence, who really was doing such a great job and still is, but has he been? I think he's probably still stuck on 9 sacks. Yeah, he is. For a guy like that, I think it's tough. He came in with Daniel Jones. They were part of that 2019 draft class. Like I think for him and for like Darius Slayton, I think it's toughest on them. But like Dexter Lawrence really being now like the true leader of the team. He said all the right things, and I think he expects a lot of his teammates. But like they're in a really rough way, and you can't let him off the hook. It really is inexcusable. But you can't be that shocked after what took place. That was Daniel Jones being released is a very big deal for everyone in the room. I mean, to expect them to have this spirited, game, it just wasn't realistic at all. And plus, this is not a bad Tampa Bay Buck team. Despite the fact that they came to this game 4-6, now they sit at 5-6. They're very much in the NFC South race. Their 4-game losing streak was really against a lot of good teams, and they really came close to winning a few of those games. So, yeah, Tampa's a pretty good football team. But I guess just to go through some individual stats first, then we'll really just try to breeze through the game. There really isn't a whole lot to discuss, but Baker Mayfield was really good, 24 for 30, 294 yards, and even had a touchdown on the ground where he ends up doing the Tommy DeVito hands celebration. Look, just truly embarrassing for the Giants. He did that, and there was no recourse, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do? At that point, the Giants were losing 23-0 late in the second quarter. They weren't going to make him pay for it. But it was interesting is the Bucs have 4 different players with rushing touchdowns. The Bucs use a running back by committee, and so touchdowns by Sean Tucker. He's the one that's used the least of that bunch. Bucky Irving, who was great in this game, rushing and receiving. He had a rushing touchdown as well as Rashad White. So that's Irving, White, Mayfield, and Tucker. 4 different players with rushing touchdowns for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, accounting for all their touchdowns. Mike Evans returned from injury and was fairly effective. He didn't need to do much. He made 5 catches for 68 yards. For the Giants, Tommy DeVito, 21 for 31, 189 yards. he also had 7 rushes for 32 yards. DeVito was not very good. He also didn't really make many mistakes either. But DeVito definitely is not a starting quarterback, not even close to it. And in my opinion, I don't really think he's a backup quarterback either. But I guess he could determine that fate. As far as the run game goes, a fumble for Tyrone Tracy, which is disappointing. A fumble that occurred in the red zone. And the Giants have had such struggles in the red zone. But yeah, Tyrone Tracy on a wildcat play where he kept the ball and eventually it's poked loose. So Tyrone Tracy, who has really looked very solid. I mean, the numbers aren't going to jump out at you in this game, but like I like what he brings. But maybe we do need to consider fumbling as a thing now that it's happened back to back games, dating back to that Carolina game in Germany. Malik Neighbors, he wasn't targeted until the second half. So you can understand why he's really upset. It's going to be a tough, they're going to have to try to calm him down and get him the ball, but it's not going to be easy. So yeah, Malik Neighbors ends up with 6 catches for 64 yards, which considering he had nothing in the first half ends up being just, he salvaged it, I guess. Wandale Robinson, 5 catches for 47 yards. Theo Johnson, 3 for 39. There was also a drop in the mix there. Darius Slayton, no catches. I feel like he, in some ways, is affected the most because him and Daniel Jones have always had good chemistry. And I'm not sure if that is going to be the case with Tommy DeVito. Like I said, 4 sacks for the Bucs, 0 for the Giants. That was the thing with Tommy DeVito last year, where the Giants were getting all these different turnovers, and that's just not really happening now. And so, it's gonna be tough to win games. As far as some of the team stats are concerned, 450 yards for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers compared to 245 for the Giants. Um, let's see. Time of possession was in favor of the Bucs. Bucs were good in the red zone. Just everything that you could have wanted for them. And then turnovers were 1-1, where, like I said, that Tyrone Tracy fumble, and there was a bad exchange between Baker Mayfield and I believe Rashad White, and the fumble went to Baker Mayfield. And so, yeah, but here we go. Bucs get the ball first, and they drive the field for an opening touchdown. 14 play, 70-yard drive, 8 minutes and 23 seconds, and kind of a mix of everything. I should also mention Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard makes his return to the Giants, and he's actually makes his return to MetLife Stadium, and he's actually making some contributions. Now, this stat line is pretty Wandale-ish, but even almost worse. It's 5 catches for 16 yards. So not a whole lot of yardage, even though he was targeted 7 times and made 5 catches. But good to see Sterling Shepard back. And, I thought he was going to retire, but now maybe he'll, be in the playoffs and actually, with Chris Godwin being out for the season, actually have a little bit of a role in that Tampa Bay offense. So, yeah, like I said, a little bit of a mix of everything for the Bucs on this drive without a whole lot of resistance from the Giants. And there were a couple of third down conversions, and there was also a 4th-and-1 conversion, a Sean Tucker 3-yard run on a 4th-and-1. And eventually, Bucky Irving makes a 14-yard catch and gets it to the 1-yard line, and Sean Tucker, who was actually teammates with Tommy DeVito at Syracuse, Sean Tucker is able to punch it in for a 1-yard touchdown, gives the Bucs a 7-0 lead. Then the Giants get the ball. First run was good. First play of the game was a Tyrone Tracy Jr. 16-yard run, but then after that, just ugly, and it ends up in a sack. Kalijah Cansey sacks Tommy DeVito. So the Giants have to punt it away. But the Bucs, after a Mike Evans 13-yard catch, they stall, and so they punt it back to the Giants. And the Giants end up in a situation where Wandale Robinson makes a 5-yard catch to make it 4th-and-1 at the Giants' 37. And Wandale, they do a run play with Wandale Robinson kind of in motion, and they give him the ball, and he's short. It looked very close, live, and it's one of those things where if they you couldn't really review it and change it, but it was close, but he was short. That's how they ruled it, and so the Giants turn it over on downs. So the Bucs have a short field to play with. We go to the second quarter, and the Bucs do get it to a situation where it's 3rd and goal at the 1. However, there was a play where Sean Tucker fumbles the ball, caused by Bobby Okereke, but no one saw it sitting there on the ground except Baker Mayfield. Brian Burns was in the vicinity, and no one saw it somehow, and it ends up in a situation where Mayfield recovers it, and Chase McLaughlin, the kicker, gets a 23-yard field goal to make it 10-0 Bucks. Then the Giants go 3-and-out, and there was a sack on that drive as well. Bucks get the ball, and it would be a touchdown drive. The 7-play, 82-yard drive uh, worth 3 minutes and 41 seconds. And there was one third down conversion on a Baker Mayfield 9-yard run. Kate Otten with a 30-yard catch. I think that was just one catch on the game. And it ends up in a Bucky Irving 6-yard touchdown run. So that would make it 17-0. Giants get the ball back. Theo Johnson with a 23-yard catch. That was kind of his one big play of the day and one of the bigger Giant plays of the day overall. But Vita Vea sacks Tommy DeVito. And I think this was the fault of John Michael Schmitz, who, I don't know, it doesn't seem like he's been great. It's hard to kind of grade these offensive linemen individually, but I don't feel as if he's been as good as maybe you'd want him to be. Just a guess on my part. But so that kind of totally blows up the drive, and Jamie Gillen punts it away to the Bucks, and they would get a touchdown drive late in the first half. Trey Palmer with an 18-yard reception. So now you're deeper into Giant territory. There would be an illegal contact penalty on Deontay Banks on Mike Evans that would extend the drive. And on second goal to 10, it's a Baker Mayfield scramble, 10-yard touchdown. And that's the play where he does the Tommy DeVito hand celebration. I'm not even sure how I would call it, but and then Chase McLaughlin misses the extra point wide left. So 23-0 Bucks. We go to the second half. Giants get the ball first, and they actually put together a decent drive. They actually start giving the ball to Malik Neighbors, which is not a bad idea, who hadn't seen it in the first half. 21-yard reception for him, then an 8-yard catch, a 14-yard catch, just peppering him with it. DeVito to Wan'Dale Robinson for a first down. Ultimately, they end up in a situation with first and goal at the 5. Wildcat direct snap to Tyrone Tracy, and the Bucks cause a fumble. Levante David, I think, is the one that causes, and Kalijah Kancey recovers the ball at the Tampa Bay 5-yard line. So where the Giants had a chance to get on the board, not that they were going to come back, but had a chance to maybe do something. It is 23-0 still. And then the Bucks are able to drive the field for a 12-play, 95-yard touchdown, 7 minutes and 10 seconds. There was a 3rd and 8 at the 7 conversion where Baker Mayfield runs for 10 yards. Again, the defense just showing nothing. The defense was really, really bad. Because we can talk about the offense and look, like we know with Tommy DeVito at quarterback and just, some pretty key injuries on the offensive line, it's going to be ugly for the defense. There's a little bit less of an excuse, but man, this defense is so unimpressive. And I feel like that's not going to get a whole lot of talk overall, but it should. It's a bad defense. So, where do we go from here? There was a 3rd and 11 conversion for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It never ends in a situation where they were already up 23-0. Mike Evans with a 15-yard catch. And there was a defensive pass interference on Adoree Jackson guarding Mike Evans. Why is Adoree Jackson guarding Mike Evans? I don't really understand that at all. And so Rachaad White punches it in from the 1-yard line, makes it 30-0, just completely embarrassing. And the Giants, they do have their one touchdown drive, 13 plays, 68 yards, 7 minutes, 17 seconds. You get some Wan'Dale Robinson in the mix, Malik Neighbors, Theo Johnson. We go to the fourth quarter. And again, a lot of Wan'Dale and Malik Neighbors on this drive. And Tommy DeVito scrambles for 17 yards to the 1-yard line. And it is Devin Singletary is the one that scores. It's a 1-yard touchdown for Devin Motor Singletary to make it 30-7. So the Giants are not shut out. And then the Bucks are moving the ball, a 56-yard run actually for Bucky Irving, which was just a pretty impressive run, but also kind of embarrassing for the defense. There is a bad exchange between Mayfield and I believe Rachaad White, and it's recovered by DJ Davidson. So the Giants get the ball in this situation. It's the fourth quarter. They're down 30-7. So again, it's not as if there was a realistic chance that they were going to do anything, but really the drive doesn't really go anywhere. They do get one first down, but then it's an incomplete pass to Theo Johnson after I think he had a drop on the play before. So turns it over on downs, and then it's just kind of exchanging some punts. Bucks punted away. They go 3 and out. And then you have the drive where Tommy DeVito gets hurt. I think the hit was made by Kalijah Cansey, and DeVito was in pain. I think he might have had the wind knocked out of him possibly. So Drew Lock was in for one play, makes a pass to Tyrone Tracy for 3 yards, and then Tommy DeVito came right back in, only to be sacked by Antoine Winfield. So Giants punt it, and then the Tampa Bay does turn it over on downs. Giants try to do something. They were calling timeouts, even though the game was over, but they moved the ball a little bit, but it doesn't end up in any points. So final score 30-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the New York Giants. A 6-game losing streak, have not led at all in any of those 6 games. 0-6 at home. The only 2 teams that have not won at home this season are the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. And who's up next? Dallas. So Dallas has a chance to end that. And where I went into this week really feeling like, okay, Giants might win that game. And they still might. They still might, because this Dallas team is very flawed. The Cowboys go into Washington and win an ugly one against a Commander team that I think we're seeing is definitely coming down to earth for sure, but a team that's right in the playoff hunt. It was a big game for them in Dallas, whose season's been in free fall. They show some pride and find a way to win. So they, realistically, you would think they would beat the Giants. Certainly, the Bucs, I would say, are a more complete team, like way better offensively than what you would see from Dallas. But there are pieces there. Obviously, like they do have CeeDee Lamb, for example, among some others. You have Micah Parsons on defense. So we'll see what happens. Giants Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I kind of feel bad for everyone that has to watch that game. It's a pretty brutal slot there. You almost wish it could be flexed out, but so yeah, we'll see what happens. Giants dealing with a little bit of injuries now as well on a short week, so we will see. But the ugliness continues. Daniel Jones is released, and the response is kind of what you'd expect, just lackluster, and as Bleak Neighbors called it, soft. So we will see where the rest of the season goes, but Giants lose again. This time 30-7 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they will get ready for a Thanksgiving match with the Dallas Cowboys.